Luis Moret is a boxing judge and referee from Los Angeles, East Los Angeles. He has refereed bouts in the United States, in Mexico, France, Hungary, Germany, the United Kingdom, South Korea, Thailand, Africa, China, and Belgium. Almost as many countries as Ambassador Gaddy Vasquez has visited. Lou is our member sponsor here at the California Club. He makes it possible for us to enjoy this beautiful main dining room. Please welcome Lou Moret, who has agreed to introduce our honoree.
Well, thank you for that generous introduction. You know, I love these events. And I love them because if you look to each other's table, look to your left and right, everybody here is pretty important and pretty special. And if you really look carefully, you're going to see an icon. There's a few of them at this table, a couple there, over there. And that's what we all try to become. And if you take a deep breath, I love the smell of rich Latinos. I want you to imagine what it was like in the early 50s in a little town outside of Fresno, growing up. You have to know that the coaches weren't that good. You have to know that the fields weren't manicured like they could be. And you have to know that in order to get out of that one-horse town, you had to be pretty darn good. You had to excel. You had to have the will and the determination to succeed in this tough world. This, our honoree, went from Sanger to Fresno City College, to the College of Pacific. He wasn't recruited by the big guys. He wasn't sought after. He was a great athlete. People knew about him, but nobody was recruiting Latinos or Mexicans or anybody else. So he went to a school that had 1,750 students and excelled and was really looked at. But he had a shoulder injury. So guess what? Wasn't drafted. Most people by that would quit. Not Tom Flores. Tom Flores went to Canada and played there, and then joined the American Football League. And is only one of 20 players when they finally merged with the NFL that had played all 10 years. You've seen in the presentation what he has accomplished, and it's huge. But this man sitting before us is as humble as they come. He has a steely confidence. He is a giver, not a taker. He has succeeded beyond expectations because of ganas, because he wanted to, determination. He is elegant, he has dignity, and we all should be very proud of him for what he's done for all of us. But there is no free lunch, so to speak, even though it is a free lunch. So you gotta do something for me and our honoree. We gotta send a message to Roger Goodell, a loud message, that not only should be inducted, he deserves it more than anybody else. He deserves it and we demand it. So, I'm gonna say, who do we want in the Hall of Fame? And you're gonna say Coach Flores. But I want it so loud that Roger Goodell could hear it. So you ready? Who do we want in the Hall of Fame? Tom Flores. Who? Tom Flores. Who? person who epitomizes a commitment to excellence, Coach Tom Flores.
Wow, thank you, Lou. That was, yeah, that was me. Sometimes I shock myself, and you look back on things that happened in your lifetime, and you don't appreciate them as much as you should, because at the time that you're doing what you did, it was just part of the job, part of growing up. And for me, a little kid from Sanger, growing up in the valley, doing all the things that little kids do in the valley, was just a way of life in those days. The recent movie that I tell people, what was the name of that movie, Barb? McFarland. McFarland could have been Sanger, could have been Corcoran, it could have been any of the San Joaquin Valley towns, because that's the way we all grew up, in little towns where you got up in the morning and you went to work, and then you left work, went to school, and then you went back, and if you're lucky, you ate dinner, and then went back to work until the sun went down. That was just the way of time, but nobody felt sorry for themselves, because that was the way life was in those days. People don't understand it in this era, but when you hear the stories are true. Thank you, Lou, for that introduction. Mickey has been marvelous to me. I grew up, let me tell you a story, how I got to where I got. My dad never got the recognition that he should have. He was a quiet, solid man. He was born in Mexico, in the state of Durango. And when he was a little boy, growing up in Durango, they lived in the hills, and his parents, or his dad, used to mine for dynamite at a little town called Dinamita. So at night, certain times of the year when the weather was right, I guess the moon was out and all the crazies were out, the bandits would come through the villages and rob and steal and rape and pillage and do whatever they could. They all claimed to be Pancho Villa's bandits in those days. Whether they were or not, nobody knows. But more or less, they were bandits. So for the fear of his family, they grabbed everything they owned, and they took a little cart down the railroad track, came all the way down to the bottom of the hill, and jumped on a train and came to California. In those days, the Bracero program was in use. And they settled in the San Joaquin Valley because they had relatives there. And my dad went to work as a little boy, 14 years old. Did not go to school, but he did work, and there were 6 of them, and they all worked, and they all gave their checks to their parents. My dad gave his check to his mom and dad until he was 27 years old. I think that's the reason he got married, so he could get out of the house, really. And after knowing my mom as long as I did, probably was so, yeah. She grew up the same way. But he married my mother, and they had my brother and myself. I was the second of the 2 boys. And the story I want to tell you that is a very touching story to me, because not known to my family or anybody, to be honest with you. We had a little store, a little tienda, when I was in a neighborhood. It's probably the precursor to 7-Elevens in this little neighborhood in Sanger. And he'd be open 7 days a week, open at 6 in the morning, closed whenever the last person walked out, sometimes midnight. And so my brother and I would help. We would stock the shelves and then play, and then stock the shelves and play, and then goof off, and mom and dad would work the store. One night, he disappeared. He said, I have to go someplace. Well, he went and came back 2 hours later. We didn't know where he was. I don't even think mom knew where he was. When he came back, he had a glow And the glow was he had just been sworn in as a citizen. He had been going to school, and he became a citizen. And he had tears in his eyes. That's how much it meant to him. Why he did it, he didn't have to, but why he did it? Because he was proud of where he was and proud to be an American. That was my dad. Well, my story was I just loved school. I started out school. My mother sent me to a little school, Granville, in the country. We had 8 grades, 3 teachers. So the first and second grades were in 2 rows. First and second grades were in one building, third, fourth, and fifth in another building, another room, and 6th, 7th, and 8th in another room, building. And so I went when I was 4, and the teacher sent me home because I was too young. I think my mother, once again, wanted to get rid of me. And then when I was 5, she sent me back, and they accepted me. There was no kindergarten, so I started in 1st grade. So I was always the youngest guy in the class all the way through high school and college. And if you wanted to do well, you had to catch up with the rest of everybody, because they were all older and maybe a little more advanced. But there was no tutoring, there was no after-school programs. But the one thing that I always loved school. I loved the interaction in school. I loved going and paying attention and doing well in my classes, and I loved sports. Always loved sports, playing everything. It didn't matter what it was. I didn't even know what I was playing sometimes because it was new. Everything was new to me. My dad never knew what football was, never knew what basketball was. The only thing he knew was baseball. And the only thing he ever did athletically was bought us, my brother and I, a mitt one Christmas so we could play catch. When I started playing football, the very first thing I did, I picked up a football. And I said, "What is this? It's a funny looking ball here." And so I picked it up and I threw it, and it was fun. We played catch, and some friends of mine showed me what we had to do, excuse me. And it became a natural thing for me to throw a football and to play the game because I had the ability to do it. So I continued to do that, and my parents never went and saw me play, or my brother, until we were in high school. We got in high school and we used to play, and I remember one time we were at a very close game, and I think it was my junior year, and my dad lost my mother. He couldn't find her, and I'm on the sideline. I look over and she's on the sideline. I said, "Mom." She said, "Well." Mothers were great at saying "well" when they didn't know what else to say. "Well." I said, "You don't belong here." "Oh, you don't know." "What do you mean I don't know?" It was, "Well, you don't know, and they say." Those are my mom's favorite phrases. I never found out who the hell that was until I started saying it. Anyway, that's how they learn sports, and they backed me up as much as they needed to. They were very proud of what I accomplished, and when I was going to college, I got hurt, and I was having a good career in college, and I did have a good career in college, but I got hurt and had to have surgery. So that was my first attempt. And the old saying, everybody, no one has been successful has not lost a battle along the way. So you're going to lose before you win the big one, but you just hope you win more than you lose. So my first attempt I lost and had surgery. My second attempt, I didn't make it with the Redskins because it was too soon after the first attempt, and my shoulder had not healed. And my third attempt came when the American Football League started, and I got a call. I said, "Would you be interested?" And I said, "Who are you again?" He said, "We're the Oakland Seniors." their first name was Senors. And I said, really? And I thought, I said, what if they're just calling me because my name is Flores? Didn't. But fortunately, they changed the name after 2 months. They realized all the ridicule they could get from Senors. Nothing, not to defame Senors, but it just didn't fit. So I said, well, let me go try. So I went and tried. I worked out. I got strength back. And I said, well, I got one more chance. I didn't own a car. I didn't owe a bill. I was single. And I had met my wife already. In fact, she's right here. My wife and my best friend. "58 years. And we dated for 5 years before that. I'm talking about slow learners. But so I said, I got one more chance. Why not give it a shot? I don't want to look back on life and say I didn't give it a shot. And so I did. I signed the contract. My mother cried because I turned down a teaching job to do that. I said, Mom, I love you, Mom. I have the rest of my life to work. And I know that I will always find a job because I've been trained to do that. I learned how to do that from you and Dad. There's always work if you're not afraid to work. If you don't like to work, then you're going to make excuses to not work. So I signed the contract and went on to Santa Cruz, California, first training camp. 11 quarterbacks the first day. 11 quarterbacks. We couldn't even get in one picture. The lens wasn't big enough then, not like it is nowadays. It wasn't wide enough. So after the first day, we had 4. And then there were 2. That was 60 years ago. And I'm still in professional football. So I guess it worked. Because if it hadn't worked, I would have found something else to do. But I sure had a lot of a great time in fulfilling my passion and winning games and doing what I do best. And I guess it was coaching and playing and just being around the game. I love it. I always tell my kids, I said, whatever you do, do it well, do it the best you can, and make sure you have fun. Because if you don't have fun, then it's not really worth doing. Have fun. And then if you can't do it, go on and do something else. Always have a backup plan, but follow your dream. And I followed my dream, and my dream came true. So I'm very privileged and proud to have accomplished what I did, and I'm very privileged and proud to accept this award. Mickey, it's a wonderful award for all of you. I've never been in a room with so many Hispanics. Nobody's going to steal my car, are you? No, okay. No. Just kidding. No, I'm a proud. When I came to Los Angeles, I realized how big we had become in the Hispanic community, the Raiders, I mean. And then having said that, how big or how important I was, and Jim Plunkett, because we were kind of the pioneers that year, or the leaders of the pack, winning the Super Bowl. And until I traveled around the country and I'd run around and find people that said, my dad cried when he saw you win the Super Bowl on TV. I said, what? My dad, I said, really? And he was a Hispanic man, didn't know him from anybody, from, a lot of people. But he was so proud that another step had been taken for us. And now the steps are many, and the roads are open. It's just our turn. It's our turn. It's our turn. In every walk of life, it's our turn. Thank you so much for letting me talk to you.
Coach Flores, on behalf of the Latino Leaders Network, it's my honor to present you with our Eagle Leadership Award. Thank you. Let's take a picture out here. Okay, yeah. Yep.
Right here.
Right here, okay.
All right.
Just give me one more minute if you would, please. Now, if you agree that Coach Tom Flores belongs in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, please sign our petition. Using the information on the big screens, it's simply CoachFlores2020.org. CoachFlores2020.org. And we're going to get that petition to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Okay?